As a certified specialist here in Arizona on divorce and family law, I'm often asked by clients, what's the difference between a divorce, an annulment, and a legal separation? I'm glad you asked.
Author and family law specialist Douglas Garner.
So Douglas?
Certified family law specialist Douglas C. Gardner. There he is.
Hi, Douglas Gardner from the Davis Miles Law Firm.
Most of my clients come in wanting to file for a divorce, and most of them have never considered the alternatives, which may be a legal separation or an annulment. Sometimes there may be an advantage to taking one of these other options. Since most people prefer the divorce, let's start with it. In a divorce, the judge has to decide several things. Number one is the divorce itself. Arizona is a no-fault divorce state, so if either side wants a divorce, the judge can grant the divorce. The other easy aspect of a divorce is whether or not either side wants their name restored back to a prior name or a maiden name. If either side wants it, the judge is going to change the name whether or not the other person has an opinion. Next, in a divorce case, the judge has to take care of the children. This would involve parenting time, which is where the children live and what the holiday schedule is, etc. And then legal decision making, which is which parent or both, if it's a joint decision making situation, has the right to make major decisions over medical, educational, religious, and other major life changes. After that, the court has to look at the financial issues. This would include child support and spousal support and whether or not one side has to pay the other side's attorney's fees. And then finally, judges have to decide on a fair and equitable division of assets and debts. These are the issues that have to be dealt with in every divorce case. A legal separation is nearly identical to the divorce in that the judge has to go through the exact same issues, except for at the end of a legal separation, the parties remain married. Everything has still been separated. The court's entered orders as to the children, if applicable. The court's entered orders as to spousal support. Now, in a legal separation, some judges take the position that they're not supposed to change either side's name because they're still married, though I've had other judges change names. But importantly, with a legal separation, the parties are still married. So while it's exactly the same as a divorce, other than they're still married, the fact that they're still married does result in certain very important differences. Because they are still married, one spouse can cover the other spouse, because they are still a spouse, on insurance. So occasionally we have cases where the parties want a divorce, except for one person has amazing insurance, the other one has horrifying health issues and a very difficult time finding cost-effective insurance, and so the parties may elect to stay married other than legally separated so that they can so that the person with the good insurance can continue to cover the other spouse for medical insurance purposes. This may save the parties money overall between the two of them. Sometimes the parties just don't get along and they would like to be divorced, other than for religious reasons they want to stay married, and so we can do the legal separation so that they are still married. Some clients come in looking for legal separation because they're concerned about financial issues. The other person may have a very severe gambling habit, or the other person may be out using alcohol or drugs or abusing alcohol and drugs in such a way that the other spouse is concerned that they may go out and get in a horrible accident and be sued, or whatever else may occur. In those situations, the parties can file for a legal separation where they will be financially separated. There's no longer the marital community, meaning everything now has been divided. Everything belongs to him or her. Nothing belongs to both of them. Even though the parties then are still married, because it's a legal separation, not a divorce, if one person is sued, they can't sue the spouse also, and so the assets of the other spouse may be protected from the bad actions or the gambling habits or whatever else of the other spouse. Once in a while I have clients that think that a legal separation is an important step that you have to take before you can go forward with a divorce, and that's just simply not correct. A legal separation is an end in itself, just like the divorce is the end in itself. It's not a step, neither one's a step towards the other. Now, one of the downsides potentially of a legal separation is that because you're still married, but you're now legally separated, everything's been financially split up, over the next couple of years, one side or both may want to find somebody else and get remarried. The problem is you're still married. Under Arizona law, you can only be married to one person at a time, and so at some point in the future, then the parties may need to come back to court so that the court can grant a divorce. In such a situation, the divorce itself should be very simple because the legal separation has already taken care of everything. The assets and debts have already been decided, orders have already been issued for finances, the kids have, everything's been decided or agreed upon by the parties, and so really all we need to have the judge do is grant the divorce and perhaps change the name if either party's asking for their name change. Moving on to the third alternative, this is an annulment. Annulments are very difficult in that generally the court has to find that there's been some fault. Somebody has committed some fraud, or there's been some horrifying misrepresentation or something of that nature. And because of that, generally nobody wants to admit that they were the one that did whatever is horrible being alleged. And so most cases, divorce or legal separation or annulment, are resolved by the parties reaching an agreement. It's a small portion of cases that have to go to trial. With an annulment, though, generally these cases have to go to trial because neither side is willing to admit that they were the one at fault. A lot of times cases start out as an annulment, and then when the parties can't reach an agreement, they end up being converted into a divorce, so that the parties can just do a no fault, look, fine, we're getting a divorce, we're moving on. With an annulment, similar to the divorce, the marriage is no longer in existence. There's a slight difference. In an annulment, the judge says, we're going to pretend the marriage actually never happened. There's an asterisk there. When you go on to get married again to your next wife or your next husband, if you tell them you've never been married before and forget to mention that you were actually married and it was an old, there might be some hurt feelings there. So you were married, it's just that the marriage, we now pretend that the marriage never happened with the annulment. As the law stands right now, with an annulment, neither side's able to go in and ask for spousal support because the marriage never really happened with an annulment. But the judge is still supposed to divide up any assets and debts that were acquired in the marriage, usually a fairly short marriage. And of course, if there were children, regardless of whether the parties were married or not, regardless of whether it's an annulment, divorce, legal separation, the court does have to enter orders as to parenting time and legal decision making and child support for the children. So while most clients prefer the divorce, it is important that you understand that there are other alternatives and explore whether or not these alternatives fit your situation. If you've decided that you need to move forward with a divorce or a legal separation or an annulment, we'd be glad to help you with that case. I hope that you've enjoyed this Love Factually video. Please click the like button to help other people find our great videos. Also, hit the subscribe button so that you have access to our other videos, and click the notification bell so that you are one of the first people to have access to each new video as it comes out. Any good attorney product comes with a disclaimer. Here's mine. Number 1, watching this video or reading my books does not make you a client. And until you come in and consult with me or hire me or one of our attorneys here in the firm, there is no attorney-client privilege that's created. These videos and books are general in nature and should not be used in place of specific and detailed advice. Every case is different, and you need to discuss the specifics of your case with an attorney. Number 3, until you hire me or come in for a consultation, the only legal advice I can give you is that yes, you should consult with an attorney. Finally, because your case is unique, no amount of Google, YouTube, or even my wonderful books can replace the advice of an experienced attorney.